Welcome back to the live desk. I'm Katie Byrd. I hope everyone had a fantastic Labor Day long weekend. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful weather. And you guys, I just have to go back to the city cam for just a second. Look at the Kansas City skyline and that sunset. I mean, wow, if you were here for meteorologist Luke Doris's forecast, then you know we are off to a very cool, calm start to September. Hopefully these fall-like feels stick around. Well, you guys, tomorrow is a big day for Missouri politics and the Kansas City Metro. Both we have fallen officer Hunter Simonsik's funeral procession tomorrow morning. That's going to be streaming right here on KCTV5 Plus. We also have a special session set for Missourians. Go ahead and take a look at your screen here. Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe is calling state lawmakers, of course, back to Jefferson City. We've been covering it all weekend, and tonight I'm going to give you a look at not only a political expert's opinion on these redistricting efforts, along with some locals that our reporters talked to today, and of course, Representative Emmanuel Cleaver, who our reporter Morgan Rydell spoke with earlier this afternoon. First, I want to start out with Northwest Missouri State professor Dr. Bronson Herrera. He is an associate professor of political science. He gives a closer look at not only what redistricting could mean for Missouri, but also the history of it throughout, the United States, as well as taking a look at Texas, California, some other states. So I want you guys to take a listen in.
And I'm an associate professor at Northwest Missouri State University.
Go Bearcats. And Dr. Herrera, thank you so much for joining me on the live desk. It's always good to talk to, alum and other people involved with the university. And so historically, looking back through our nation's history, how has attempted mid-decade redistricting efforts affected states and our nation overall?
Yeah, good question. So it's not super uncommon, especially in the last 2 decades, to see this type of redistricting. So North Carolina has had a lot of potential redistricting maps over the last 10 years because the court keeps coming back to their map and they're saying, it looks racially motivated, your map. And so we need you to take a look at it again. And they look at it again and they say, we're still not comfortable with this map. And they look at it again. So we see some of that happening from time to time. There have been court cases having to do with, mid-decade redistricting. And essentially the court, and most recently in 2019, I believe, the court has said, look, we don't want to get involved in a conversation about this is too political, this is too much of a partisan, uh, taking advantage, one party taking advantage of another. And so Chief Justice Robert, writing for the majority, says we're not going to get into too much nitty-gritty. We're going to leave it to the states to do that. But if something is egregious, please send it to us. And that's basically where we're at when it comes to mid-session redistricting.
That is very good to know. And it's interesting that you said that it's really not that rare among different states and throughout history. Dr. Herrera, we know Governor Mike Kehoe has called for a special session. It's starting tomorrow. So what could you see happen during this within the coming days and weeks?
Yeah, so it's obvious that the attempt here by the Republicans is to gerrymander the state. If you look at if you go to Princeton EDU, they have a good map and they have data there that shows you which states have gerrymandered, which ones haven't. And if you look at Missouri currently, as of 2022, we got an A ranking from Princeton saying that, look, we don't gerrymander in the state. And of course, now with Trump supporting Texas redistricting mid-decade, It looks like Missouri is looking to add support to that and to take away, the district Kansas City essentially, and maybe flip that. And so that's essentially what they're doing. That's the game here. And I expect to see either the Republicans will be successful in that if they can keep their coalition together, and if not, then they won't be. But that's what's happening.
Dr. Rira, thank you so much. And so, looking at things from a bigger picture, how does Missouri's values align with the effort and with this special session? I think it's pretty clear with Republican Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe, but what is your take on this?
It's an interesting question because Missouri keeps going back and forth, it seems, on what they're comfortable with. And so when we say, well, what's the value that Missourians have? Um, we're a diverse enough state that it does seem to vary. Now, what is interesting is our state is one that does allow for special sessions. Having two special sessions so close together maybe isn't typical, but it's not unheard of, and it's allowed by the state. The state a while back passed a law to try to make sure gerrymandering didn't happen in the state, and then 2 years later it was overturned. Now you could say that the language that was used in those amendments were done framed in a certain way to help get those results, and certainly politics is all over it. But we see that Missouri keeps going back and forth. And so uh, I don't quite know if it aligns with Missouri's values or not. I think the test for that will be, do the Republicans do it? They have a good pulse on how their constituents are going to feel about it. So that's the first signal. And then the second signal is how much backlash there is. If there's a huge backlash, then now we'll know for future. But until that happens, we won't know how Missouri feels about it.
It's interesting that you bring up the point of potential backlash, and I think we're already starting to see some people not agreeing. There were over 1,000 protesters at Mill Creek Park near the plaza yesterday in Kansas City, allowing their voices to be heard on what they feel is unconstitutional, is affecting their democracy. And so, is it rare, and I know you touched on this already, for two special sessions to be called within such a short amount of time? And could you kind of just explain that to our viewers a little bit?
Yeah, I would say it's rare. I mean, it doesn't happen super often. Our state legislators are part-time state legislators. So some state legislators, they work 12 months out of the year. Ours does not. We're part-time. And so you would imagine, because of that, our Constitution allows for these special sessions to be called, but not only by the governor, but by the state legislator. Either can call for a special session. And in part, that just has to do with the dynamic of our part-time legislator. But like I say, having two close together, isn't super common. But they have a lot to look at this year, so that's what they're doing. And that's all I really have to say about that.
Kansas City, and specifically in Representative Emmanuel Cleaver's district, what message does this send to them?
Yeah, I mean, in part, it sends the signal that Missouri's left being a purple state and it is now a red state. I mean, I think that has become clear over time. Missouri used to be a swing state. When we talk about those states that presidents have to go and campaign in and make sure that they get that state on their side. Lately, it's been Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, maybe Arizona, states like that. But it used to be that Missouri was that state. We were the purple state, and we're no longer that that state anymore. We're now a true red in the red category. And so for folks in that district, but for Democrats across the state, it's a signal to get involved in politics. And you mentioned a protest, and all the forms of getting involved in democracy. That should be the response. If you want to see a backlash, then you have to cause the backlash. And so that that should be the lesson learned. But the signal is clearly that this is red territory now, and so now it's up to Kansas City and Democrats across the state to determine what they're going to do in response.
Dr. Herrera, thanks for that. And so I'm curious, with the transition from more of a purple to a red state and territory, what should Kansas Cityans know, regardless of if they're Republican, if they're Democratic leaning? What do you think they should take away from these efforts?
So not to douse water on the backlash idea. Whether your viewers support backlash or not, gerrymandering is very common. It's as old as, I would say, the country. So this isn't uncommon. Um, Mid-decade gerrymandering is a little more uncommon, but still isn't super uncommon either. Um, and so I would say understand that this process, the politics of this is fairly common. And so I personally don't get too over worked up about, is this unfair? Is it not unfair? Certainly, there's a lot of unfairness in politics. I would say that it tends to be Republicans who gerrymander more often than Democrats. And partly the reason for that might be interesting for the viewers, is because state legislators are more often controlled by Republicans than by Democrats. And so something I often tell students and I talk to individuals about is, if you're frustrated about gerrymandering and particularly Republican states doing this, and right now it is Texas that's leading the way, California responding, New York responding, and now it seems like Missouri is responding in support of Texas, right? And 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 if this is all frustrating to you, it starts with voting at the state level. We often say, well, why should we get involved in state politics? Let's get involved in federal politics, make sure the president's who I want, make sure my senator's who I want. But what we don't realize often is that the state legislator draws these lines, and that's constitutional for them to do that. And so if you don't like how they're drawing the line, you need to get involved at the state level. And something that we've seen for decades now is Democrats not putting a lot of skin in the game at the state level. They're focusing more on the national politics, and that's understandable in a lot of ways. But you're going to lose the House, and you're going to see a lot more gerrymandering if you never win. And maybe a hope that I have, because I don't really like the politics of gerrymandering, some of the hope that I have is that states um, will will gerrymander on both sides, and then we can go guns down, and we can just stop the gerrymandering across the board. There are some states have nonpartisan commissions that come in and draw the lines. Sometimes they have to be approved of by a state legislature, sometimes they don't. But there are many states, I believe, maybe 11, that have that kind of a system, and so maybe that's something that could happen in the future. So.
Now, I think through a lot of this, you've just emphasized using your rights as an American, getting out and vote, peacefully protesting. So, what is your final thoughts as Missouri goes into this special session tomorrow?
I think on both sides, whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, and I think both sides are trying to maybe correct something that they feel is an injustice. For the Republicans, I haven't heard Trump say this or his allies say this, and I haven't heard the governor say this, but I have heard other Republicans say, well, the 2020 census was done wrong. And that's true. So if you look on, uscensus.gov, and you pull up the 2020 report, well, it's 2022 report, they'll say on there um, that they did the census wrong. And if you look at the states that ended up getting an advantage there, so you can understand maybe where Republicans are coming from. The states that were undercounted were Arkansas, Florida, Illinois, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Texas. So you have a lot of red states, although not all red states. And then you look at states that were overcounted: Delaware, Hawaii, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New York, um, Utah, Rhode Island, and Ohio. So again, not all blue states, but the majority are blue states, right? And so Republicans say, well, that's not fair, and maybe we should gerrymander to make it more even to what it should have been. And then you see Democrats say, well, that's not fair. Now you're changing the lines to benefit certain people. And certainly this can have a racial or an urban, rural um, antagonism that can be part of gerrymandering too. And so we see all those dynamics, and that doesn't seem fair. And so with politics, there's a lot of tit for tat. Republicans and Democrats trying to punish each other for something that happened 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and they're trying to make it fair now. And the problem is when we see this kind of stuff in politics is it divides our nation. So what I would say to viewers is, number one, there's a lot of games in politics, and try to understand both perspectives, because both sides do have a perspective. Um, but at the same time, don't get involved in the tit for tat. Try to take a broader view of politics, and then get involved. If you don't like it and you say, "Look, I think the gerrymandering bothers me the most," then go and vote. And if you say, "No, I really think the way that this census was done," or "We really think that." Some of these representatives in these blue districts are passing things that are against our values, then by all means go and vote, and support the redistricting. Um, and so both sides should be getting out there and getting involved.
Dr. Herrera, such an important message, and I do agree that involvement is the most important thing in the local, state, and national level as well. And is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Oh, let's see. Um, I just real quick did just want to mention for viewers who wanted a little bit more of a background. When we talk about from an academic perspective, gerrymandering, there are different types of gerrymandering, and so this might be interesting, because what Missouri, it looks like, did is something that we call packing, back prior to this special session, where they took a district. They basically took St. Louis and they took Kansas City, and they shoved everyone into those districts and gave Democrats two districts essentially that were very safe districts for them. A Republican probably is never going to win Kansas City or St. Louis, right? And so it creates safe districts, and that's one way of gerrymandering, is you can try to pack all the opposing party into one district. Now, this also creates a lot of racial tension sometimes, because our politics is divided by race, right? And so if you're packing and you're trying to get all the Democrats in one district, but now it looks racial, or it is racial. Either way, that becomes a problem. And then, so what Missouri's looking at to do right now, that just might be of interest real quick, is that they seem to be cracking now. So packing is taking all the Democrats, putting them in one district, or all the Republicans. Cracking is the opposite. You're trying to take a city or an area, and you're trying to break it up into a bunch of different districts. And that seems to be the strategy in Missouri right now. And it's actually what Illinois does. And so we're seeing the cracking now instead of the packing. And so that might just be of interest to know a little bit of that history, to see the strategies that people use when they gerrymander, to see why Kehoe is going after Kansas City. I mean, there's a reason he's going after Kansas City the way he is, and it's all has to do with the strategy. So.
You just heard from Northwest Missouri State University professor Dr. Bronson Herrera. He's actually an associate professor of political science. Gave some great and very insightful information as Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe is calling lawmakers back to Jefferson City for this special session that is set to begin tomorrow. I want you to go ahead and take a look at your screen. This is Kehoe's proposed Missouri first, Matt, maybe you are living in Emmanuel Cleaver's 5th District and you're curious where you are along these lines. You can see it goes around a lot of Raytown, Independence, up into Sugar Creek. And so our reporter, Morgan Rydell, earlier today actually sat down with Representative Emmanuel Cleaver. You know, he and a lot of other Democrats believe that Missourians are getting these plans straight from D.C., having heavy influence from President Donald Trump, and that they're in favor of Texas. The influence, again, does come from our nation's leader. And, you know, one of the things Emmanuel Cleaver says that you will hear in this interview is that Kehoe's plan would actually split the Kansas City public school district in half, and he said that a lot of Missouri Republicans may not have considered this and lawmakers may not have either. But go ahead and listen into this conversation with Morgan Rydell and Emmanuel Cleaver.
Contrary to what one might hear in our state, this issue has not been resolved. The Missouri General Assembly has to make a decision. Now they have added something that was unknown a few weeks ago, and that is they're not going to allow for a lengthy debate. They want to run in, pound the Democrats and then take a vote. I think if anybody in Missouri wondered whether or not there was some compelling reason for this new move, that goes out of the window because they don't want to discuss it in public, which would be a requirement if this debacle continues. But I've been informed by members of the General Assembly that there is going to be a move to just shut it down shortly after it's introduced to prevent the fact that they don't want people in Missouri to know that there's nothing behind this except pure politics. And we need to make sure that the people of our city in particular, but the whole state, realize that here's the bottom line. They've looked at the big ugly bill and the fact that it is highly, highly unpopular throughout the state and throughout the country. And since people are not going to take that kindly, I think they decided what we'll do is just move some people around till we get a good mix of the group of people we're moving around, and then we'll just have the upcoming election with new people in the district. And resistance is the first step against redistricting malpractice, and that's what we're going to do. The people need to know we're prepared to file suit. We also know that there are at least 3 other states where the governors have agreed to work with the leader of the House to respond in kind to what happened in Texas, which is awfully embarrassing, what should be to them, because it makes us look horrible around the world. We've been the center of all thoughts about democracy until now. People realize we just weren't serious about it.
As you mentioned that, and even just kind of the politics, this is about politics. We saw in Texas when this was happening, the Democrats left the state, prevented their legislative body from holding quorum there. Just my knowledge, I know we have too many Republicans in Missouri to prevent that. They can still hold quorum even if Democrats leave. As these voters watch this happen, what could their representative do to prevent something like this happening? What should they be watching out for to make sure they're aligned with their representative?
Well, we don't have the numbers. It's simple, and I think you can expect people to filibuster. I think you can expect them to object and object and object, and they're going to want to make sure that this is brought to the attention of the whole nation of what's going on in our state. But think about this. This is what's going on. You know, they're saying we don't like the way the people vote in Missouri's 5th congressional district, so we'll just move them and replace them, and until we get a good mix of what we want, and then we'll draw a district around it, and that's what they've done. And it's also important to know that this did not begin in Missouri; it began in Washington. And the worst part of this is if the people in Missouri just say, "Oh, okay, we've just been told we're too stupid to know how to vote, and so they're going to make some changes in Washington to help us learn how to vote correctly." And it's just that simple and just that silly. But I think they're going to go ahead with it. I think that there are going to be some in the Democratic Party who are going to push extremely hard against it. And there are some Republicans who don't like this. Some of them will even vote against it. But I think many of them right now are afraid to go against Washington. So they're going to do whatever they've been told to do.
You know, we had a conversation yesterday at that protest about, fear being a word that people are using right now. You've been some people's representative for 20 years, at their house. They live there their whole lives. You've been their representative. What would your message be to them about maybe their concerns about where they're going to land in all of this?
Well, they can count on me standing up and fighting till the end. If anybody thought I was going to lay down, they should asked my name or looked at my history. I'm not going to lay down. We're going to fight. We want to win down in Jefferson City. If we don't, we're going to file suit. And if we don't win in the suit that's filed, we're going to file another suit. We'll go to the Supreme Court. This is not going to be a little easy deal. Now it's going to get a lot of lawyers some money, but it ought to be an embarrassment to the legislature for Washington to tell them how to run Missouri. And the people in the 5th district, based on everything I've heard, all of the people who are responding to this, the people who turned out in spite of the fact that it was the last day of summer traditionally, and protested. People just don't like what's going on. I think there's been some failure to recognize just how angry people are coming. Look, the business community has said they don't want it. The chamber, the city council, it had nothing to do with me. They just said they don't think that our community needed to be disrupted like this politically. The clergy people who are meeting in Kansas City don't like it. If you look at the people who are going to be moved from one place to another in terms of the district, they don't like it. And then many of the Missouri General Assembly members don't like it. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to make some people in Washington happy who like it.
One thing that stuck out to me also is the school district being cut in half. Can you put into perspective just how unique that is for a district line to be drawn like that?
One of the most unhealthy results of this would be the Kansas City School District, an urban district, which has some very unique needs, is represented by two people. It is conceivable that a person in one party could be representing one part of the Kansas City district and a person in another political party representing a part of Kansas City. And when issues come up that are significantly important to Kansas City, we could have a fight between two members of Congress. It makes no sense to divide the Kansas City, Missouri school district. And then there's this little subliminal thing, and that is one district will be along the southwest corridor, and then one district will be on the east side of Kansas City, one predominantly non-minority area, and the other is minority area. It is ugly. It is nasty. It is stinky, and it appears that that nobody even gave any thought to that about the Kansas City, Missouri School District or to the Area Transportation Authority. I've been up here pushing, trying to make sure that we got money for the World Cup, for the ATA, which is vital to Kansas City. It takes people to jobs, and it's also going to be vital to the Cup when it comes to Kansas City this next year. And all of a sudden, the areas that they travel and transport plant people is divided up now with three different members of Congress. Three. And it makes no sense. And if it can make some sense, I hope the people will contact you or the media and say, I would like to come and give out some information that would make this make sense. They're not going to do it. They can't do it. You can't make nonsense have sense.
You sit next to, coworkers of yours do support this plan, coworkers that could take over part of your district. What would your message be to people who do support this and could benefit from redistricting?
One of the things that we in Missouri have been able to brag about, that no other state could brag about, and that is in Washington, the Missouri delegation was the only delegation that could meet, the only delegation where people got along with each other and who challenged all of the problems we had together. Now, all of a sudden, one of the things that we felt good about and that no other state could do, now it's an embarrassment that we've just torn over every kind of tradition. But also, I think it's important for people to know that it's going to be difficult to try to work with people who just denied your existence and separated the ability or destroyed the ability for us to work together. I for a long time we did not have any of the states doing anything, and we started about 20 years ago. And each Wednesday, once a month, we sat down and had dinner together. People in Texas said that they had to sit down and have dinner. Everybody would bring guns. So I think the people of Missouri, for some of them, good and decent people, that this is not going to suit them well. And of course, there are some people who will love division, but the overwhelming majority of the people of the state of Missouri would probably celebrate the fact that their delegation.
You just heard from Representative Emmanuel Cleaver in his conversation with KCTV5 reporter Morgan Rydell just earlier this afternoon. This comes as Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe has scheduled a second special session in recent months. I want to go ahead and play you some video from the Missouri Capitol as I read you a statement from Representative Mark Alford. Now, Morgan Rydell did ask Mark Alford's team, to meet today, but due to traveling, he said that he directed Morgan to this statement on his Twitter. Alford says it's an honor to represent the constituents of the 4th District of the great state of Missouri, and he said regardless of where the district lines may fall, that they're going to continue to advance the America First agenda while providing top-notch service to all constituents, no matter their political affiliations. He goes on to say that he stands behind Governor Kehoe and that Alford trusts Kehoe and the state lawmakers to ensure conservative values of the majority of Missourians are adequately represented in the U.S. Congress. Now, our reporter, Ali Espinosa, went out to the area that would be most impacted in the metro by this potential redistricting. She actually spoke with over 20 residents today. One interview I want to play you in specific, his name is John Washington. He's super passionate about this, and he's lived in Raytown for over 20 years. Go ahead and listen into what John has to say.
Washington.
Thank you, sir. So, what are your initial thoughts for this whole redistricting plan?
Well, you know what? I like to see everybody pull this together as neighbors. Each and every one of us, 'cause I met all of them. And I just think it's a beautiful world we live in. Why would we change any of this?
Especially when it comes to voting, do you feel
Especially when it comes to people's lives. We do not disturb people's lives. People work hard to come into this country, learn about this country, and everybody's trying to do the right thing to keep it together, and that's me. I love keeping the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of all of it, because I believe in it all.
Does it concern you?
It does, because I still know penmanship. I got a beautiful handwriting, and women taught it all. Why would we disturb anything they're teaching down here to our children? We all good people. We just want all this angry stuff to stop, because it's not helping nobody. Everybody's hurting each other now, disrespecting everybody. No respect.
You feel like there's just too many changes?
You see how I'm still growing. I'm growing every day. By beautiful women teaching us what I learned from them. The Bible is beautiful if you can learn it. You can't hate people because of
Again, that was Raytown resident John Washington. He spoke with our reporter, Ali Espinosa, earlier this afternoon. Next, I want to go ahead and direct you to the KCTV5 website. Our producers, Zoe Schreiner and Jackson Gerker, wrote up this web story. It's a fact check, and it draws the line between redistricting and gerrymandering. So I feel like a lot of times, these terms, they're often said, but maybe people are curious, what is the difference between them? So this kind of breaks down how all gerrymandering is considered redistricting, but it's not the same on the flip side. Not all redistricting is gerrymandering. It has a helpful post from the Associated Press. It says that gerrymandering is what happens when the redistricting process is politicized to keep one party in power. It goes on to give examples and a little bit of a history lesson too. So if you're curious about the difference and maybe how it can affect Missourians, especially this week, if you're watching the news, I would definitely check out this web story. It gives a very in-depth breakdown there. Now, next, I want to go ahead and play some reporting from yesterday. This was our reporter, Morgan Rydell. She was at the Mill Creek Park protests. Over 1,000 Kansas Cityans spent their Labor Day protesting Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe's special session. Some were even protesting Trump policies, along with other things they don't agree with that are going on in this country. Go ahead and take a listen in.
When you think of a park on Labor Day, you may think grilling with family and friends.
Save our district! Save our vote!
But this group had a much more pointed message.
Anytime it comes to saving democracy, no matter who it is or what it is, we're going to show up.
Hundreds at Mill Creek Park spent the day weighing in on their views of the state and country's direction, from redistricting.
This gerrymandering that the Republicans are trying to do is to cheat us out of our voice. And so I feel like we need to stand up.
To workers' rights.
whether you are like me and you're a union teacher in a classroom, or if you're a federal worker who are currently under attack from different administrative priorities.
It's the politicians choosing our vote.
And a lot of honks from drivers passing by. Beverly Harvey is the founder of Indivisible KC. She stood next to Stand Up KC and South Kansas City Democrats. Their biggest fear, what they see as an attack on Missouri's 5th District, with state lawmakers poised to take up redistricting later this week.
Emanuel Cleaver has represented the working class for a long period of time and will continue to do so. If Republicans take over, or if the redistricting happens, that's going to be diminished by far.
Representative Cleaver himself even stopped by the protest, a chance to thank those for showing up.
All these people came out because they're concerned, and I think fear is a good word right now.
And sent a message about what he says is the state of our country right now.
I think the lights are flashing red right now, and it all depends on how we react, how we respond to this crisis. There are a lot of people who don't like it, but they're remaining silent.
I can say proudly that I am not being silent for my grandchildren. And we can't.
Again, that was KCTV5 coverage of the Mill Creek Park protests right outside of the plaza area over Labor Day. Over 1,000 people allowed their voices to be heard. Now, throughout the past few days at KCTV, we've spoken with multiple political experts and professors. I want to go ahead and play you some more coverage of this. Our reporter Chandler Watkins sat down with Dr. Matt Harris. He's actually a professor with Park University, and he provides some insight on Missouri's special session. Take a listen in.
Any legal challenges that might make that very difficult. The goal is to have this in place for the midterm elections.
The proposed map would essentially split Kansas City down Highway 71. The east side would remain in District 5, while areas like downtown and Brookside would become part of District 4.
Those Democrats that you want to draw out of Emanuel Cleaver's district, you got to put them somewhere.
Park U political science professor Matt Harris says Missourians shouldn't expect Democrats to leave the state, as Republicans have supermajorities in both the House and the Senate. But there will likely be legal challenges.
Outside of getting some Republicans on board with not doing this, there's not really much that Democrats can do in Jeff City. And so then you look at potential legal challenges, challenging on constitutional grounds.
While it could make some districts more competitive, Harris questions whether the government is representing the people.
It makes people less likely to participate. It makes them trust government less. And so, regardless of the state that we're talking about, this kind of thing is not, it's not good for democracy.
Again, that was Dr. Matt Harris with Park University. He sat down with our reporter Chandler Watkins yesterday evening on Mike Kehoe's call for the special session that is set to start in Jefferson City tomorrow. Now, if you've joined this from the very beginning, I said earlier that this is not only a big day tomorrow for Missouri politics in Jefferson City, it's also a big day right here in the metro. Kansas City will be honoring fallen officer Hunter Simoncic with a funeral procession. I want to go ahead, all week we've been talking about the legacy that Officer Simoncic left on the community. He was involved in CrossFit, and he even read to local elementary school students each and every week. Well, today our reporter Grace Smith spoke with one of the students who had he said that Officer Simoncic left a big impact on his life. It's truly an inspiring story. Go ahead and listen in.
It's me, your little brother, Marcos.
When Officer Hunter Simoncic was tragically killed in the line of duty, Marcus Marino didn't know what to say, so he wrote it down.
listening to one of our favorite songs.
Last September, Marino was paired with Officer Simoncic through the Big Brothers Big Sisters mentorship program.
He basically changed everything about me.
What started out as weekly meetups quickly turned into more as he drove him to school every morning.
I used to tell him everything about my life, or like what was going on and stuff. And him just like being there and listening to me, just like it just changed my perspective. Life doesn't go the way you want it to.
They became like real brothers. Officer Simoncic would push him to be his best and focus on school while pursuing passions like cutting hair and working out.
I didn't know if you wanted to go to the gym tonight or not. If you do, just shoot me a text or call me.
That was the final voicemail he got from Officer Simoncic, asking him to go to the gym before his last overnight shift. And for the first time the next morning, he wouldn't be there to pick him up for school.
I feel like something different in my heart, like, because I don't know. Like at first I didn't cry. I was just thinking about it. And then like a couple minutes after, my anger kind of took over. I just got like really angry and started crying. I love you, brother. Goodbye. Don't take this.
Gone too soon, but some things about Officer Simoncic will always live on. Like these life lessons, this high schooler will hold on to forever. It's why Marino says he'll continue to work hard for his hero.
And then start kind of doing better at school, because he always talked about me, because I would tell him about how school was going, and he would always tell me to do better. Love you, brother. Your little brother, Marcos.
The Kansas City community is mourning the loss of Officer Hunter Simoncic. He was killed in the line of duty, and I want to go ahead and pull this up on the screen. This is from the KCTV5 website, and it gives all of the details of Officer Simoncic, his funeral procession. Services will be at Children's Mercy Park, and they are open to the public. Here's a picture of Officer Simoncic. So the parking lot's open tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Stadium gates will open 30 minutes later at 8 a.m. and the funeral is set to begin at 10 a.m. Now, after the funeral into the afternoon, Kansas City, Kansas Police Department announced that a law enforcement procession will follow 30 minutes after the service ends, and here is a list of the route all written out. Starts out at France Family Drive to Village West Parkway, going all the way onto northbound I-635 before going on to Washington Boulevard, and finally ending west on I-70 to northbound I-435. Now the public procession will end again at I-70 and I-435. This is where family members of the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department will continue on the procession, and those attending the funeral service have been asked to approach Children's Mercy Park from State Avenue. Again, here's another picture of fallen Officer Hunter Simoncic. This tragic loss comes as Kansas City also lost Deputy Elijah Ming in the line of duty. It's been a tragic and difficult summer for the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, losing a deputy and an officer in only a 30-day span of time. And tomorrow, Officer Hunter Simoncic's life will be honored. His legacy is sure to live on for many years to come, just like Grace's coverage earlier today perfectly describes his impact in the Big Brothers and Big Sisters program to this high school student. Such an inspiring story. Well, next up, I want to bring you a story. So recently over the weekend, a ding-dong ditch prank turned deadly for one child out of Texas. So I want to go ahead and play you the coverage from that as I get it pulled up here. Not only do we have that story, we also have reporter Gianni Navarro's coverage on this. And a man has been charged with murder in connection to this. Go ahead and listen in.
A ding-dong ditch prank in Houston, Texas turned deadly.
There's no way you can mistake that kid for somebody grown or to do you any harm. And that's what hurts so bad.
Neighbors stunned by the death of 11-year-old Julian Guzman. Police say the boy and his friends were playing at a house down the street from their homes just before 11 p.m. Saturday. The game involves ringing a doorbell or knocking on someone's door, then running. A witness described Guzman running away when he was shot. The alleged gunman, 42-year-old Gonzalo Leon Jr., was taken into custody and charged with murder.
Sir, you're accused of the first-degree felony offense of murder.
He is expected to head back to court on Wednesday when a judge could decide whether he should be allowed to be released on bond.
Make sure you get to court tomorrow morning.
The Harris County District Attorney says they will be requesting a $1 million bond for the suspect. He also explained that a legal principle allowing individuals to use force to defend their home, family, or yourself should not apply to this case.
The Castle Doctrine does not apply in any way, shape, or form to an 11-year-old boy running down the street. This little boy was shot in the back. He had no weapon on him.
The DA calling the deadly incident, quote, cold-blooded murder.
He was playing pranks on the neighbors, and it cost him his life.
I'm Maribel Gonzalez reporting.
This situation has raised the concerns of the dangers of ding-dong ditching across the country. Our reporter, Gianni Navarro, spoke with a local officer as well as community members to get their take on the dangers of ding-dong ditching.
It's a childhood prank that many remember, ringing the doorbell, then running away. But a harmless joke can now turn dangerous in an instant.
I've even been ding-dong ditched, but I've never thought about pulling out a firearm and shooting somebody or even chasing a kid or anything like that.
Police say times have changed and notice people are more aggressive and act on impulse.
Don't meet a kid with violence. You may be able to recognize the kid even if you have a video doorbell.
Now more than ever, parents need to stay involved. Knowing what your kids are watching online is crucial.
A lot of these kids are seeing these trends on TikTok, social media, and they want to go out and try it themselves.
Parenting experts agree.
We become a society that is overprotecting our kids in the real world and underprotecting them in the digital world.
Tracy Foster, the co-founder of Screen Sanity, says parents should delay social media use when possible and approach it like learning to drive.
We are given more responsibility as you show competence, and we would love to encourage that to happen with social media. Maybe the first time your kid wants to have a TikTok account, have it start on your phone.
Foster says it's okay to step into your child's world, to open up a line of communication.
But if your kid has TikTok and that's where they're consuming a lot of their content, see what you can do to get them to share that in different ways.
She says it can also be helpful to install a monitoring service that can track texts, Google searches, and a lot of the social media apps.
But then it'll flag to you things like, hey, I want to let you know that your kid was using some hateful speech. Here's some example. And here are some ideas of what you might want to do about that.
That's all we have on the KCTV5 live desk this evening if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, but don't fret, this stream will continue on the KCTV5 Plus apps as well as the website. You can get this app on Roku, Apple TV, as well as your smartphone. So if you want to keep watching KCTV5 until the newscast at 10 o'clock, then we will have that content for you on the KCTV5 app. Thanks so much for tuning in and have a great night.